Hello and welcome to another round of interviews with one of our eternal future worlds competitors. I'm Patrick Sullivan. Joining me, I have the pleasure of interviewing Phoenix, who recently qualified for our World Championship on the heels of a top 4 finish in the Cold Hunt Draft Open. That is your second top 4 finish of the season. And by nature of our rule this year, that qualifies you for the World Championships. How are you doing?
Thank you, Patrick. I'm doing great. I'm honored to get an interview and to get to know all the internal community a little better.
Yeah, these are hardball interviews, so brace yourself. You know, I like to ease in very politely and then start asking the tough questions. So for starters, how did you discover the game? How long have you been playing for, and how did you find out about it?
Well, I found out about Eternal, I think, less than 2 years ago. I started playing. I was discovering some digital card games after I was searching for a new hobby. And I first stumbled on some other ones, but they had a lot of random effects, or they were pretty pay to win, and I didn't like that. And then I discovered Eternal. And I noticed it was developed by a lot of Magic the Gathering pros who played on the Pro Tours. And I thought, wow, that must be a really good game. So I started playing, and I was immediately hooked after I started. So never had any regrets.
Did you start off sort of, just looking for a game to play for the sake of having fun? Or were you looking for something to dive into competitively, or a combination of the two? What were you trying to kind of get out of the experience, I guess?
Yeah, I have a history of card games. I started playing Magic when I was 12 years old. I'm 34 now, so that's more than 20 years ago. But when I got into my 20s, I did some other hobbies like medieval swordsmanship, for example, reenacting some battles from the Middle Ages. That was also pretty time consuming. So I stopped playing Magic almost entirely. And then when I reached 30, I stopped the medieval swordsmanship because I was a bit tired of it. And then I wanted to play a card game again. But when I played in my teen years Magic, I was very passionate about it. I watched all the Pro Tour coverage. I secretly held a dream to be one of the best there was into that game, but I never pursued it because of time and money constraints. And then when I started Eternal, it was like, at first, okay, this is a really fun game. I want to put some time in it. And then when I first played my first ECQ, I was really hooked to competitive play. I was like, okay, I couldn't be a Magic Pro Tour player. Now I want to become one of the best Eternal players there are on the tour.
All right, so I want to take a step back here. The medieval swordsmanship, very interested in this. So were you actually like building your own weapons and suits of armor, or what's that look like to be involved in that?
Yeah, the medieval swordsmanship, I started when I was 14, I think. And it was indeed lots of things. So we were going on encampments, and then we were reenacting all the battles of the Middle Ages, the important battles, Wars of the Roses, Franchimont, really all big high points of the 15th age. So it was indeed making chainmails, but also fighting, reading manuscripts about fighting techniques to get better at it. It was really fun, and I was also very, very passionate about that.
Is that a period of history that you're really passionate about?
Yeah, for sure. It was. Yeah, we really lived those ages again, and we went on those weekends, and we lived in tents. We had some fires and we cooked on those. We did some. Now I'm searching for the words. I can't come up.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So I'm something of an American Civil War history buff myself. I have not actually got into the Civil War reenactment scene yet, but now that I'm in my 40s, I can sense it like that's gonna that might be like my next hobby. So cool to hear about that. When you started playing, was there like a particular card or faction or just like a card, powerful or not, that really spoke to you as like, oh, this is a cool game, this is a game I'm interested in playing, or this is a strategy I'd like to explore more? Any kind of like initial, like what's the first card you really remember that way?
Like I think the first, it has to be one of the cards in the deck I took to the first ECQ, and yeah, the first set I knew was Echoes of Eternity, but short after that there was the mini set, Whispers of the Throne, and I really liked the archetype that the boxer came up with, the Even Vox archetype. So Vox, nurturing nurturing sadist. I really like that card for the ability to stabilize against aggro, to grind out other decks in attrition battles. That really spoke to me, to make really big creatures in the late game. I really like that card.
Very cool. So talking about the tournament itself, again, you had a top 4 finish in the draft open. On the back of your other top 4 finish that qualifies you for Worlds, was it in your mind that, going into this open, all I need is a top 4? Was Worlds really on your mind as like the thing, like this is a really good shot for me to qualify for Worlds? Or was it just, if that happens, great, but it's just another tournament and I can't get too far ahead of myself?
I really went hard on the testing the week before, I have to say, because I was really aware that I already had the top 4 and this was the last open of the season. So I really knew I have to give it my all this time to get there. I really pushed myself. I already had 2 top 16, so I was already qualified for the closed last chance qualifier, but I really thought to myself, oh, I really wish I can avoid that and just snag my World's invitation already in this open.
So tell me about your testing. Do you know about how many drafts you did in between the set coming out and the open?
Oh, I didn't really keep track. It was like, I started on the back foot, I have to say, because the set launched when I went on a family weekend, actually. So I had to start 2 or 3 days later. But I know I had the Sunday then, and I think I had the Friday of work too. And I really went hard on drafts on those 2 days, and each day I also did at least 1, 2, or sometimes 3 drafts before or after work to really get the hang of the format. So if I have to put a number on it, maybe 30, 40 drafts or something.
It's funny you talking about starting off on the back foot, because I had the opposite experience. I'm like, I log in, the day goes on, I do 5 drafts and win 7 4 times. I'm like just mashing all these people, right? And then 3 days later, it's like 0 wins, 1 win, 2 wins, 1 win. It's like, oh, the community caught up fast. Like they've been going really hard at this. So we kind of had the reverse experience there. Was there a particular like strategy or faction pairing or individual faction that you were trying to draft going into the tournament, or were you sort of open to however the packs broke?
When I start discovering the draft formats, my usual thing is to trying to read the signals. That's mostly what works, unless there are some weak colors and some strong colors. But it's hard when you've got less than a week to really discover all that. So the first drafts went pretty rough. Sometimes I had a run with 5, 6, or 7 wins, but there were just as many times where I got 0 wins or 1 or 2 wins. But I just started playing, and it just felt like, there was not a particular color that was really weak. So it really felt like, you just gotta read the signals and know which cards are good and see which cards go late. So you know which cards and which factions you're gonna get past with really good cards in the later packs.
What are some of what you would call sort of the sleepers in Cold Hunt? Cards you see late, or cards that you hear other skilled players say, I don't think it's particularly good, that you actually think is like stronger than maybe the community believes?
Yeah, I think what I did on the second day in the elimination stage, I think you also commented on it on the first match in which I was playing versus Mail. I had a very aggressive deck, so lots of 1 and 2 drops, because the format was pretty grindy, pretty attrition based, because of the new 2 mechanics, contract and inscribe. It let the games go long, trades, and in the late game try to win with big units and bombs. But also there weren't that many good 2 drops in the format. So I noticed a lot of the good draft decks had only 3 or 4 units they could play on turns 1 and 2. So yeah, I really felt if I saw in Cold Hunt, there were also not that many good 2 drops, unless in Justice you had the Borderlands lookout, the 3/2. If you could get a lot of 1 and 2 cost units and play them fast, and your opponent is on the back foot from the beginning of the match, that could get you a lot of wins, and it paid off in the elimination stage for sure.
Yeah, it's cool to see draft go through these sort of metagame evolutions, because I think what you're describing is true, and the thing that I've heard a lot of players talk about, which is, okay, so there's a inscribe and contract. You can play these really deep games, just like kind of play all your 6s and 7s and your bombs, and you make all your power drops. You can use the contract units on like turns 5 and 6 to like be worth 2 cards or catch you back up, all that. But if you take that to its extreme, if someone shows up with a bunch of 1s and 2 drops and pump spells and cheap removal, like you just have hands with a bunch of rune swords and Cabal extortionists or whatever, and you have no shot of catching up. So it was cool watching that. Like, I thought your deck was a really cool demonstration of that principle of like, yeah, a lot of the games are grindy. A lot of it is about going to 6 and 7s, but you can't go too far down that hole, or else a deck like yours is going to be an impossible matchup.
Yeah, that's true. That's one thing I thought was really powerful if you could do it. But yeah, it was the most aggressive deck I drafted the entire weekend. The 4 runs I did on Saturday to qualify myself, I wasn't able to put that aggressive deck together. But when I saw those cards go late, the 2 drops, the removal spells in red, I thought, yeah, I just have to go for it. It will be so powerful if I can get those aggressive starts and get them on the back foot.
Yeah, I think the 1 drops with contract 2, the uncommons, are a big part of that too, because they're also super strong if on turns 5 or 6 for pumping up something big, but they can also facilitate like these, very aggressive starts that people can't necessarily handle. Was there anything kind of any synergies from the draft pack that you thought were really cool with Cold Hunt, or were you just sort of filling out your deck with whatever the best cards were once you've had your factions paired up in Cold Hunt?
Yeah, I think mostly the second one. I don't think the draft format is too synergy based at the moment. Just playing good cards, knowing which cards are strong, drafting those. Drafting bombs if you see them, if you can get them in your color pairs. But yeah, it's also pretty skill intensive, and yeah, because you just need to have lots of playables too, because every deck runs 15 power, so you have to have 30 playable cards in your factions. And yeah, the days before the tournament, I tried experimenting with 3 faction pairs, but there's also not that much fixing. So yeah, that really didn't pan out too well. So that was also one thing I thought to myself, if I don't need to go 3 faction, I'd rather prefer to stay in 2 factions.
Yeah, that's a really great point, and something that I've noticed a lot too is like, this is the first draft format where I feel like I'm really straining for playables. Like at the end, it's not trivial. Most formats, I'm playing 17 or 18 power. I get to the end of the draft and I'm like cutting 1 or 2 reasonable cards. And this time it's like, no, all the picks matter. And sometimes once you commit to your factions, you just got to kind of take whatever's there, because like you said, with Inscribe, 15, 16 power and 30 or 31 playables is the target. And if you don't hit it, it can be really rough.
Yeah, and that's the tough part because you want to stay open, you want to read the signals, so you want to spend pack 1 and some of pack 2 to really get to know, okay, which factions are open, which cards am I gonna get late. But yeah, you also need lots of playables, so you also need to switch gears at a certain moment and say to yourself, okay, these are my 2 colors, and I'm sticking with it.
So walk me through sort of the open weekend. Obviously, you have to play your qualifier matches. How did those go? I mean, were you pretty comfortably locked up for the open early on, or were you sweating your sort of tiebreakers towards the end?
Yeah, it was tiebreaker hell for me. My first 3 runs were pretty good. I think I was 6-1, 5-2, and 4-3. So I knew I needed at least 4 wins in my last draft run, and I was 3-1, I think. So I knew, okay, I just need to win at least 1 more to get to 19 wins, which I thought would give me a good shot at day 2. But I only got it in my last game, and this really tense game 2. And then after that, I had the 19 wins, and it was still, I think, more than 6 hours before the end of the qualifier stage. And I watched myself drop down, and it was like, oh no, I'm gonna fall out. I'm not gonna be able to make day 2. But then and I told my teammates, because I'm also a member of Team Invoke Lethal. I told them, like, okay, my only consolation is the tourneys I did best in this season were the ones where I just snuck in under the 64th spot, and then on day 2 I crushed it.
Yeah,
and I snuck in at the 62, I think. So it was really close.
So what time, like your time, was it when you found out like you're playing tomorrow?
I think it was half an hour past midnight or something.
Okay. Wow. That's a sweat. Yeah, that's wild. So how I mean, obviously you 3-0'd, but how did your first draft go?
Yeah, you mean the draft process or the games?
The whole thing. So when you were actually playing on Sunday, you're single elimination time. You're a few wins away from Worlds. You don't even have to win the whole thing. How stressful was the first draft in the games you played?
Yeah, it was of course pretty stressful. But I thought to myself, yeah, I've got to do what I always do when I'm in a tourney and I draft. I just got to be really focused and really good prepared. So what I always do is I take notes with the pick. So I take a sheet and I make some columns like pack 1, pick 5, for example, and then, okay, which colors are cut, which colors seem open, and that helps me in knowing which factions to go into. So that's what I do, and it helped me a lot to get a really aggressive and strong Rakano deck. And then the first 3 games, I think the hardest match was probably the one which was covered against Mail. He took the first game versus me, and I was on the back foot. And then the second game, I had just enough damage just before he stabilized. And then the last game was such a nail biter, and I was able to take it down because of the Brigade Hall, which gave me so much value and just let me keep on attacking. So that was a crucial match. And then the 2 matches after, I think second match was versus Tempest Dragon King. The first game was also, I was really on the back foot, and I then drew the only bomb into my deck, Lifesteal Flyer, and I took that game on the back of it. And I think the other games weren't really that close, were really good for me. I just steamrolled them, so that felt good.
So how are you feeling after your top 4 match? Because obviously you've qualified for the World Championships. That's a great thing to do on, the kind of the last shot to do it in terms of the 2 top 4s. Were you just like super relieved, or were you like, no, I still want to win this thing, there's still a lot on the line? Or did Worlds sort of like, was that the goal and you were sort of at ease after that happened?
Yeah, I just really wanted to get to Worlds actually. So of course, when I was in the semifinals, I still wanted to win, and if I was able to take the tourney down, I would. But I was already I was in tears. I was going to the World's Championships. I was just so happy. And part of it was also I haven't told this yet, I think, but I'm recently became a father.
Oh,
So we have,
congratulations.
yeah, thank you. So we have a 2 months old baby running, not running around yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, a son, and he was really ill that week too, so he cried a lot, and I was really sleep deprived and tired actually, so I had to drink a lot of coffee and soda to keep myself awake for the elimination stage. So it was just I just couldn't believe I did it. I was like, how did I do this?
Well, I got good news for you. You got about another 10 months before your son is running around. So
Yeah,
it won't be
true.
mobile for a little bit. You may notice typically I do my interviews at my house. But I'm in the office today because I got 2 sick babies at home, and there's no way I could not get a quiet room in that house right now. So
yeah, I can imagine.
So you secure the top 4. Who are the people that you're texting or calling or celebrating with? Your testing teammates, your family, like who are the people you reach out to first?
Yeah, I think the first one was my girlfriend. She was she was already in bed, but she's really supportive of me. Otherwise, I couldn't have tested as much. Certainly not with such a little baby, which we are raising right now. So I'm very grateful. So I woke her up and I was in tears, and she was immediately in tears too that I did it. And my teammates also, of course, my teammates of Team Invoke Lethal, they were also so happy for me. We just enjoyed that. Yeah, I'm now the 3rd person of the team who plays into Worlds, and we were so proud of the team because we only exist for 1 year, and we are also we are already now really doing very well in the organized play. So yeah, we are thrilled about it.
Do you have a sense of what your testing process is going to look like for the World Championships? It's a little bit weird, right? Like your teammates are your competitors too, and there's a lot on the line. Are you all just going to kind of work together and you'll know what you know, but that's okay? Or going to break off into smaller groups and kind of work by yourself? What do you think that testing is going to look like?
Yeah, I think in preparation of Worlds, we're gonna try to do as much focused playtesting as we can. It's not always as easy because we are also in lots of different time zones, for one thing, and yeah, for the other, if you become a dad, you would certainly have a lot less time. And the times I play, almost no one else of the team is playing, so what really helps me a lot is just discussing things on Discord in a text channel also, just to hear about the format, everyone's thoughts, what's strong, what's weak. But I think, yeah, the best thing to do is focused play testing and see each other play, give each other feedback about all the little intricacies of your play. That really matters a lot when you're in high tense tournament situations.
At this point, we typically open up the floor if you have any questions to ask one of the developers, such as myself. Now, again, I can only answer what I can answer. There's a chance this gets edited out and all that. But if you got any questions, now you got the floor.
All right. I just going to I prepared actually a little yesterday. So I'm gonna look into my my Word document over here. Okay, so the first question I had was, yeah, I first wanted to say I find Eternal truly an amazing game. When you compare it to other digital card games, the competition is not even close. In Eternal, it runs very smooth and it rewards strategic play. So I'm very happy I discovered the game. But also, one of my impressions is that Eternal is a bit of a hidden gem. Not many people know it. and my question was like, do you and the other developers share this thought? And if so, are there sometimes ideas or discussions within Direwolf to make Eternal bigger and give it more visibility?
Definitely. I mean, we analyze all parts of the process constantly. As designers, like, yeah, we work on the card file, but we also look at, like, for example, the change to the draft economy that was spearheaded by a lot of design work. So we're not just like play testing and iterating the file. We're looking at everything. From my perspective, I mean, it's a combination of get the message out there, and then also make sure the experience is as good as possible when someone logs in for the first time. We look at everything. We also think that Eternal is a really great game. And we think that there's a lot of different ways that we can make the experience better, more public, more visible. And, the draft rewards thing was like, it didn't actually take us that much time to do it once we had a plan in place. So a lot of it is spend the time, analyze it, come up with a good plan, and then move really, really quickly.
Okay. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to all the future improvements and new things.
Because it's wild. Like I've done a bunch of these interviews now, and like you have it in your head that like a lot of the players that that I imagine playing competitively kind of have a story like yourself, and I just have it in my head that, oh yeah, that's a lot of that's got to be the majority story. And then I'm doing these interviews with other people who have qualified for Worlds, and they're like, yeah, I've been playing for a couple of months and it came out on Nintendo Switch, and then I gave it a shot because I play games on Switch. And it's like, oh, that actually matters. How good is the game on these different platforms, or what platforms are we on? That matters too. And so these interviews have been really good for getting me in this headspace of like all the little pieces matter. There's areas for little bits of improvement all over the place.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think for sure the best marketing you can do is make sure the game is amazing and to play, and you never want to stop playing it because it's so good and diverse, and so much different styles of decks and archetypes are viable. And when you're in game, all your decisions matter. And yeah, I really think Eternal is even stepping up that game, like with this last set with this scribe and contract. Yeah, it's not just anymore up. I play this card. It's thinking, do I want a contract? Don't I want a contract? Do I want to inscribe this turn? Do I want to wait to play it in a few turns? It's really thinking each turn about every move, and I think that's for the best to learn and become a better player.
The number of games that I covered in the tournament you just top forward, where we go off the air and I'm like, that game was hard. Or Andrew Beckstrom and I are sitting there arguing about like if we thought a play was correct or not. It's like, it's hard. These games were so hard. And it's not like these cards are not the most complicated in terms of how they work when they're on the table. Like Inscribe and Contract are just about making a decision when you're playing it, not really the aftermath. And even still, these games were so hard. I was really impressed by how well you and the Boxer, the players who did well in that, like the games we covered, it's like, yeah, you played really well. These were hard games. It wasn't just like dump out your hand and a spacebar the whole time.
Yeah, that's for sure. But yeah, that's what makes it interesting to me. Like I've never had as much fun with draft as in this format. It's like I really want to just playing, and with the rewards, I just can.
Yeah. I mean, I like what you said about the random stuff too, because it's not like we don't not do random, but we try to do random like Warcry. Warcry is random. Yeah. The bonus goes on a random thing. You don't know when you're going to get it. Sometimes your opponent draws like a big, weapon you weren't expecting, and it's like a blowout or whatever, but there's still counterplay to it. There's still information. What we don't like is the roll a bunch of dice and now see what numbers come out. So I guess lastly, first of all, any people that you want to shout out here, friends, family, teammates, and then secondly, if you stream, if there's any social media channels you want to point people to, team website, now's a great time to put it out there.
Yeah, I think it's hard to really name 1, 2, or 3 people because it's really a team effort of Team Invoke, Lidl, where I'm a member of. So for teammates, I think, Apple Chips isn't qualified yet. That's a shame. He's a really good player and deck builder. He has helped the team a lot, I think. Also, Camo Milk is really creative in the deck building. Carnage, who won an open, is also putting in a lot of work. And I also had a lot of testing with Pardi, who isn't really, he doesn't play in every open, but he's also really an invaluable team member for all the testing. And he's also really a social guy who also really wants to know how everything is going in personal life and stuff. So that's really fun too. And then in my personal life, it's my biggest supporters are my girlfriend and my baby Ivan, which I'd like to put on camera.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, can I get?
Yeah.
Okay, just a second.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, here he is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, maybe you can put him a little closer. He's wearing the team logo over here.
He's beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh. No, but I do love you're talking about like the testing and checking in. I'm a big fan of the expression practice doesn't make perfect, it makes permanent. And without the people to check in on and to see where maybe there's leaks in your game or things, you just get into these patterns or whatever. It's like you really need everyone to sort of to give the people the support and the different perspectives.
Yeah, for sure. I can really recommend them. And if you're not part of a close team, there's always the Friends of Eternal Discord. That's just amazing. That was the first thing I did. It's open source. There's just a lot of sharing. So that's a really valuable resource, I think. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time and your perspective. Again, congratulations on securing the World Championship invite. When we made that change to organized play and allowing two, top fours to qualify you, we were really hoping that there would be a handful of really skilled players who got to take advantage of that, because I think 2 top fours is actually harder than winning 1.
Thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to Worlds, and I really enjoyed the interview as well. Maybe you want to excuse a little bit because of the bad English. It's not my first language.
This is the same. I was talking, before we went live, again, fourth wall breaking, of like, I did a lot of playtesting back in the day with a lot of Dutch players. And they would say the exact same thing of like, oh, my English second language, just, whatever. And then they come on and it's like, yeah, you speak better English than like most of my friends in America. So you have nothing to apologize for. Great interview. I'll try to, freshen up my Dutch a little bit next time. We'll see if we can do this the other way. And, until next time, again, congratulations. And excited to see you in the World Championships coming up soon.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Looking forward to it.
All right. Take care.